Hi again, Gregg, the News Tribune here at CenturyLink Field in Seattle, which is finally empty, which means it's finally stopped shaking, and it was. The press box was shaking at times in tonight's game. The Seahawks do it again, 8th time in 9 games, and for the 5th time in a row they win. 37-30 over the Vikings. You see that score. You see 218 yards rushing, a season high, their most since November 2018 against the Rams, when they went for 273 in the Coliseum, and you say, well, it's got to be the offense that won this game. And it was, eventually, but not in the key stretch of the game. I thought the difference tonight has been the difference in this team for the last 3 weeks, and that's on defense. And the huge plays, the defense, the pass rush, turnovers continue. And that is what changed this team from a shell of a 2-loss team, a kind of a paper tiger, to one that can now defend for a Super Bowl. Their defense is getting the ball out and making stops and affecting quarterbacks at key portions of the game. Here's the example. Russell Wilson pass, batted back to him, deflected back toward him, and he, of course, bats it down the field for that odd interception. He was trying to leap and knock the ball down. He got hit as he leaped. He said he's got to get some more hops. The ball went into the Viking defender's hands for just an odd 21-yard touchdown. Vikings lead 14-7. Seahawks answered with a drive that get down to a field goal, 14-10. Vikings get the ball at the end of the first half with 58 seconds and all 3 timeouts. They really expertly moved the ball. Kirk Cousins and the play calling, I thought, there from Minnesota, really sharp, gets them down the field to a field goal on the last play of the half. They're up 17-10, and they are getting the ball to start the second half because it won the opening coin toss and deferred. Big point in the game there. The Vikings get the ball to start the second half, and on 3rd down in their own end, Shaquem Griffin and Jarran Reed crash in on Kirk Cousins. Griffin ends up batting the ball back right after Cousins' arm moved forward at what first looked like a fumble. Reed hits him as he throws. Seahawks are off the field. They punt, and the offense gets the ball back, down only 17-10. Minnesota had 2 consecutive drives without the Seahawks getting to touch the ball on offense, and they managed only 3 points. It kept it a 1-score game. That was the pivotal part of the game, that the Vikings could have gone up 2 scores and did not, because the Seahawks defense, in particular pass rushers, Shaquem Griffin, Jarran Reed, showed up. Then the offense finally got on track. Why so much running? Minnesota stayed in 2 deep zone most of the game. 10-15 yards off the ball, 2 safeties, begging Seattle to run. Russell Wilson said, so we decided we'll keep running. I noticed at the line of scrimmage he changed a lot of his plays. You see when he raises his hands up near his helmet, it's a signal he's changing a play, as well as when it is going down to the end of the play clock. But unlike in most games, he was changing those calls from passes to runs rather than vice versa. The result, Chris Carson's 5th 100-yard rushing game, Rashad Penny's 74 yards, and it's all kumbaya in the backfield suddenly. After the game, Rashad Penny said, Carson, the reason why there is no animosity between Carson and he, and that the first-round pick is willing to be number 2 behind Carson, is for what Carson did after a 25-yard run in the first half. He tapped his helmet, asked for Penny to come into the game, even though the ball was on the goal line. Penny, of course, then takes the handoff and scores a touchdown. Penny said most running backs don't do that. With a chance to score himself, they stay in the game. Carson, coming out knowing that Penny's going to go back in and get the touchdown, instead does that. It's all good now in the Seahawks backfield if you got those 2 guys combining for 175-plus yards as they did tonight. So even the Vikings coach, Mike Zimmer, after the game said he was surprised how much the Seahawks ran the ball, but that's because Minnesota stubbornly stayed in a 2-deep zone to keep the deep balls from going over the top. What the Vikings did not know is that 2 of Russell Wilson's top receivers have been throwing up in trash cans for the last 3 or 4 days coming into this game. Tyler Lockett, after the game, said he was still sick and couldn't wait to go home and go to bed. He again did not look like himself and wasn't as fast. 3 targets, no catches. He has 1 catch in his last 2 games since that shin injury and 2 night stay in the Bay Area hospital. But he said, hey, look, I'm sick. David Moore, also throwing up, said he had Thanksgiving dinner 3 days late as leftovers because he was so sick into Sunday. He had a 60-yard touchdown when the Vikings pretty much forgot about him. Russell Wilson looked off the safety in the middle of the field. Both of them, in fact, to the right side of the field, threw left to Moore, who beat his man one-on-one on the left side for a touchdown in the second half. Moore was also very sick. So the Seahawks also didn't throw because they didn't have any targets to throw to. They've got a little bit of an issue right now at wide receiver. DK Metcalf, who is getting some key throws and targets on third downs and in the red zone, is dropping the ball again. He fumbled to ruin a Seahawks drive inside the 30-yard line of the Vikings. He fumbled, of course, in San Francisco 3 games ago at the goal line. He dropped a touchdown pass in Philadelphia, although the wind blew the ball away from his hands at the last second. The rookie that has been so wondrous for so long is dropping the ball with the season on the line here late in December. Speaking of December, NFL's winningest team in December since 2012 wins again. That's 48 wins now from November, December, and January in the regular season since 2012, and it's got the Seahawks in control of everything. As I've written going into the game and online right now at thenewstribune.com, Seahawks are in first place in the NFC West. If they win their final 4 games, they will be at least no worse than the number 2 seed in the NFC. That means a home playoff game and a bye to the division round. You can look up the stats, and I will tell you they are overwhelmingly in favor of teams that have byes and home playoff games in the division round making the Super Bowl. New Orleans and San Francisco are the only other 2 lost teams. New Orleans has the number 1 seed right now because they beat the Seahawks here in week 3. Seahawks have the edge over San Francisco, which drops from the 1 seed down to the 5 because of the Seahawks win, because Seattle beat San Francisco a couple weeks ago. Of course, San Francisco at Seattle, the final game of the regular season here at CenturyLink Field. So it's all in control of the Seahawks. And Russell Wilson said after the game, we like to be in control. Seahawks have everything in their grasp for the final 4 games of the regular season, starting Sunday night at the LA Rams, who are 7-5 and trying to fight for their playoff lives. All that coverage and more on thenewstribune.com. Davion Clowney saying, when asked how he came through with his core muscle injury tonight, he says, you can ask me tomorrow. He's clearly still not 100% and hurting. All that news on thenewstribune.com and on Twitter at GBellSeattle. As always, thank you for watching.